First 9 years at school means 8,200 hours for our children. 8,200 hours. That's quite a number, isn't it? The question is, what is the expectation? What is the social contract, let's say, or the social demand? What do we expect to happen within those 8,200 hours? Is it math or Hungarian mountains? Is there anyone from Hungary here? Slovakian mountains. I think you understand what's my proposal, what's my thesis. There are things which are absolutely fundamental, essential. And then there are things which are not so essential, so important. And if you as a teacher somehow do not manage to cover those subjects, those issues, those themes at school, nothing really happens. What may happen? A lockdown? And you don't make it, you don't manage rivers in Africa. And nothing really happens. But then there are things which are really essential. And my proposal for you today is that it is character. If nothing else, if anything happens, if you are slowed down by whatever may come, this must happen. It must be acquired. It must be taught and learned at school. Actually, it is not my proposal. I will give you one name, and except for Czech people, please let me know if this name is familiar to you. Jan Amos Comenius. Okay. Special people. I'll tell you a little bit more about him, who he is. My hero and my great source of inspiration. Why character? This great man called Comenius, you must not forget this name after this lecture. He says sometimes character, sometimes humanity, sometimes dignity, dignitas in Latin. He wrote in Latin mainly. Sometimes he says simply the good. I will use the word character or morality or moral resilience today. But why? Why is this so important? Any suggestions? Why character is the foundational theme that must be covered at school? I'm sorry? It goes with you through life, yes.
It's developed early in the years, not difficult to build it up later.
So the early stages are important, yes. Any other suggestions?
It determines how you will cope with what life brings to you.
Can you hear everyone?
Yes.
Great.
Knowledge keeps changing ever faster. Character is stable forever.
Wonderful. I have to repeat it to the microphone.
Good character. Knowledge keeps changing ever faster, and good character stays forever.
That's wonderful, wonderfully put. Comenius says, it's 400 years ago, all knowledge can be used and abused. We have plenty of knowledge. And you are right, it's developing, it's changing. In 100 years, we will be completely overwhelmed by knowledge. And this knowledge may kill us if it's abused, misused. And now we want people of character, we want people with moral resilience. There is psychological resilience, there is social resilience. I want to talk about moral resilience today. But what exactly, two questions. What it means, what is it? And second, can we actually teach it? Is this teachable thing? So first, what is it? Comenius says, and again I repeat, it's 400 years old. It means knowing good, wanting, desiring, or sometimes he says loving good. That's even greater level, loving what is good. But let's stick with wanting and doing. Knowing, wanting, doing. You are teachers, so you are listening with teachers' ears. So you hear cognitive level of human capacity, the affection, the will, volitional level, and then the action level. And one more little statement. Moral resilient person is the one who knows, wants, and does good, even if no one is looking, says Jan Amos Comenius. That's another level. Now, I'm pretty sure you understand what it means to know what is good. I usually go to bed at about midnight, and my bedroom and my study is unfortunately, there is a kitchen there, and my fridge there. And she, I don't know why I call her she, the fridge is she for, she calls on me every time, she tempts me. She is stronger than me, and when I am opening it, I know what is good, what I should or should not do. It's common knowledge. We know, we quite often know, there is no doubt, no problem about it. We know what is good. Sometimes there are difficult situations, moral dilemmas, sure. But mostly in our lives, we know what is good. But knowing, and please keep translating this to your teacher's context. Knowing doesn't mean much. You want your children to want what is good. They need to be motivated somehow. That's a little secret, a mystery, how to make some. I'm difficulties to make myself to want what is good. I can command myself, and then I do not listen to myself, so I have problems with myself, and what about my children? Or children of others' parents? How to make them want what is good? It's a real educational art to make this happen. It's not. It's really special if you succeed in that. And then, if you are really a good teacher, you somehow make them know. You somehow make them desire, but still nothing happened. You need to take the child's hand, bring them to the good, and make them touch the good. Somehow touch, that means do it. Action. Without that, you just kept talking, motivating, but nothing happened, not doing. And so, really fully developed character and morally resilient person is the one who knows, wants, and does. And now that special sentence, little sentence, even if no one is looking. How to make that happen? That talks about moral integrity. I'm not doing things just because of you, people. When you see me, this is who I am, even if I am alone. And now, who is that character? Am I that kind of character? And I want others to be such characters, and my task is to somehow educationally make it happen. It's not to be taken for granted. It's really something special. So this is what Comenius, this is how he thinks about moral resilience. And now, that's him. Now, let me tell you a little short story. I'm pretty sure you must wonder, okay, that's really something special to have to be of such a character, but how this where is the source of all this? I'll tell you a little short story of his life. In 1620, something happened in this country, in Czech Republic and Moravia. I will not go into the details, but it was religious war, Protestants, Catholics. Comenius at that time lived in Fulnek, 100 kilometers that direction, and troops, army, came to his town, and he, because he was a Protestant pastor, he had to flee, hide himself, and so he placed his wife and one child coming. He hid them somewhere because of safety reasons. He himself was hiding on different places, and after several months of this separation, he felt lonely, and so he wrote a letter to his wife. Magdalena was her name. It is the only letter that we still have today, which was kept, preserved, and he says in that letter, Magdalena, my dearest jewel after God. Ladies, that's a nice way how to be called, isn't it? And then he says, I miss you, I love you, please hold to Christ. I pray for you and your delivery, and hopefully soon we will be together again. And after 3 months, that's how fast was the mail at that time. After 3 months, he received a message that when the troops left and killed everyone, a plague, some kind of pandemic, spread in that region. And so his house was destroyed. That's the word I'm looking for, destroyed. His church, he was a young new pastor, so his church building was burned. His library was burned. The congregation was scattered. That's the good word. Please excuse my English. It's obviously not my first language, so I hope you will understand. Your wife died because of this unknown illness. Your child died, and your newly born child died as well. And Comenius, in one of his memoirs, says that at that day he fell on the ground as dead, not wanting to rise ever again. But then he got up and wrote about 250 books, mainly on education. And I will give you titles of the first book he wrote when he rose or rised. The first is Labyrinth of the World and Paradise of the Heart. And the last book was called General Consultation on Restoration of Human Affairs. In other words, he spent all his life and life energy working for the good of humanity. He kept thinking, what's wrong with us? Why are we so smart, so intelligent, so creative, so good, but why are we abusing this, misusing? Why are we killing each other, fighting with each other, making wars, and what's wrong with us? And I want to of course, I promise I will give you the answer to this question, but I want to first contrast it with something, to make it absolutely clear, to show how precious what he presents is. I will contrast it with this one. In 2010, at the University of Vermont in the United States, anyone from United States here? No, you are not. You are from Ústí nad Labem. Some smart, good people from United States made this wonderful experiment. Is it familiar to you, Scarface experiment? Very briefly. They hired a number of people and said, we would like to study how external appearance influences things, basically social perception. And we will make you a scarf, you can see the scarf, professionally, and send you to an interview, and we want you to be observant, watch carefully if it has any influence or not. And just before these people were sent to that interview, they said, Just a second, a little touch here, just to make sure everything is all right. But in fact, it was a trick, and they removed the scar completely and sent them to the interview thinking they have it. And after that, there was this reflection time, and they asked them, so, how was it? What's your perception? And I'm sure you know what was the result. Everyone said, oh, it has enormous influence. They kept looking at my scar. The way they used the language, they were even rude to me. You know, it had a great influence. Now, it was a trick. Of course, the research question wasn't social perception. We all know that the external appearance has some influence. The question was, why is it so easy to bring people or to make people feel like victims? Mentality of victimhood. And the result is, it is unbelievably easy. You just need to put into your mind something like a cognitive filter, and you start to perceive the reality through that filter. By the way, all the populistic, manipulative politicians know this. They themselves will want to be in this role of victim. They want you to feel like victim, and the way to do it is really easy. They come to you and say, is everything wrong? You are not satisfied with your life, aren't you? Not enough money, not enough this, that. You could be better, couldn't you? And I know who is to be, what's the word? To blame. And they will point to someone. It may vary in time, in context, in history, in country. But this is what they do. They have someone to blame. You are not to blame. You are a victim. You cannot do anything about it. They are making our lives difficult. You are a victim. And of course you understand the mentality of victimhood makes us passive, fundamentally passive. I'm here waiting for someone to make things better. Someone save me. Someone somehow repair it. I'm waiting for someone to do it. Comenius, when he was in this depression, lying on ground as dead, for several months he had the temptation to adopt this mentality. I'm just a victim of fate, even God. He argued with God. Why all this? I love him, like him. He's my hero, but I don't want to, he had difficult times as well, very difficult times. For some time he was in this mentality. But what was the reason? Where is the power that brought him up? And then to do such a great, really huge, enormous work for humanity. And here is the answer. Contrast it to mentality of victimhood or victimhood mentality of vocation or calling. Vocation, is it familiar word to you? Calling, vocation. I am called by someone to something, to do something. And he in his books made it absolutely clear. We are really strange, ambivalent, contradicting beings. Almost angels, when we use our potential well, almost demons when we abuse our potential. We can make almost heaven on earth in our family, in our marriage, in our relationship, at our school. Or we can make it a hell. But we have a calling. And you know what's the calling according to Comenius? He was a Bible reader. At that time, Bible was available in a native language. That was something special, in native language. So he remembers that they had the one Bible in 6 big volumes. That was all their library when he was a child. And his father used to read from that every evening. So he knew. And what was it? What's the secret? Whoever you are, whatever you do, you might be engineer, help me, doctor. What do you see? Construction workers. You get a point. You might be a president. Whatever you do, you have a calling to reflect God's character with your character. That's the calling. That's the point of the word imago Dei. You are the image of God. Our humanity is to reflect God's character, deity. Is there anything more? I know it may sound a little bit too big or too transcendent. God and his character, what exactly is that? Comenius is very practical. He says, if you are a construction worker or a doctor or a nurse or a dentist or an engineer, whatever you are called to do your job well. It needs to be good, honest, righteous, wise, you know, these traditional words. If you do that, how you know it is good? Well, it will be blaho. It will bring blessing to your neighbor, then to yourself, and together it will be honor in God's eyes. But the order is important here. If you seek blessing or goodness for yourself first, you find that no one is happy. There is no blessing, not for your neighbor or yourself. And of course, it's not honorable in God's eyes. So, very practical. And one more little observation. Labyrinth of the World and Paradise of the Heart. It is in English. It is online. You can read it. When you read it, and you will read it, in the 6th chapter, in the Gate of Destiny, it's allegorical work, of course, allegory. Comenius is so good in observation of human nature that he recognizes people go through the gate and they are given talents. Is this English word? Talent? Gifts. And there are different gifts. The point of this chapter is, do not cry, do not be bitter about things which you haven't been given. Do not compare yourself to others that have been given something. This is your potential. This is your gift. This is something which is within your power. So take it and do something about it. Do something with it. You know why this is so important? You can spend your whole life in bitterness, watching other people's gifts and not using your gift. And Comenius says, do not lament. Is this English word? Oh, I'm learning new words today, or it's coming. You can spend yourself in lamentation about things which you cannot do anything about, missing things which you can do something about. So get up, ask God what is your potential, what was given to you, observe it because it's in front of you, take it and do things which are in your power. That was the power, that was the reason why he rose after all those disasters and spent his life working for good of humanity. When I say the word vocation or calling, have you read Mein Kampf? I have. I have it in Czech language on my shelf. This man had a calling. I'm not talking just about any calling. There is a huge movement in moral philosophy called constructivism. It's everywhere, but in moral philosophy, it's exceptionally bad because basically the question is, who is the source, or what is the source of the calling? Is it me? I just say to myself, this is my vocation, and I will pursue it, I will do it. Or when I'm called, is there something outside of me? Francis Schaeffer? Any bells? Francis Schaeffer? Is there something, and is it real, outside of me? If there is something or someone, there might be a real calling. When I say to myself, my calling is to exterminate all Jews, the question here is, it's a question of identity. Who am I? And Comenius' answer, to put it briefly, is, I am someone who is called. Whatever I do, little concrete things, whatever I do, I'm called to be an image of God in those things. That's his calling. And now, since it is, just one more time this slide. Since it is all about goodness, the good. Before we go to the question of how to teach it, what is good? He keeps calling for goodness, good humanity, good character, but the word good, what is it? How much time do I have? Is there any? 20 minutes? Well, I have never done this one in 20 minutes, but most of my time I spend with non-church, non-Christian audience, and every time this question comes, what do you mean when you say knowing good, doing good? What is good? Who says what is good? And so I need to, I'm pretty sure you know, but in those last 20 minutes, you can now think with me a little bit. Don't tell anyone, because this is secular university where I teach. This is my way of smuggling things into the curricula. Okay, we need to try to play the role of students at this moment. You have never been to church, but the question of goodness keeps coming. What is good? Most of them, of course, say, well, no one knows, it's relative, it's subjective, typical. They are 19 or 20, and all of them, this is my 20 years experience, every time all of them say it is subjective, it is relative. These two words keep coming. Who can define what is good? I define it, you define it. Who can define it? And so when this question comes up, this is my response. I'm using here Comenius, but simply this is a human being, any human being. The word definition. It's definitum. You know what finitum means? Finite. When you want to define something, it means that in the hierarchy of being, you are above the defined matter or object or whatever it is. You must be above it. Because you can put your finger, definition finger, on that thing and say, you are finite. Who is more finite in this relationship, this chair and myself? Who is more finite? If I can define it, this thing is more finite. Is this clear? In the relationship, me, human being, the good, who is more finite, limited? Who defines who, in other words? Is it me defining the good, or is it the good defining me? Who is, does it make sense when I say in English, more finite? Limited? What's your answer? we are more limited. The second one I heard. Everyone agrees? You know you are not ordinary, normal audience. But you know what's interesting? In most times, at this moment, my students also say we are more limited. This is all question. If you studied philosophy a little bit, you know that I'm paraphrasing here the so-called Euthyphro dilemma. Euthyphro, the famous Socrates dialogue. The whole dialogue can be summarized in one sentence. They do not speak about man defining good, but gods, Greek gods defining good. And so the statement goes like this. Do gods say the good is good because it is good? Or is it good and so gods say it is good? I will say it once again. Is good good because gods say so? Or do gods say so because it is good? I know. It's basically this picture. Filter out gods, Greek gods, because you know they were basically projections of human beings. And let's put their human being once again. Is good good because I said it is good? Or I say it is good because it is good? And I somehow recognize it. I discover it. It itself reveals. Somehow it is revealed to me in a ordinary situation. For example, when I eat in midnight and I open the fridge and I'm eating all the ham that is there, and it was meant for the whole family, of course, but I'm eating it. I know that the next day when my wife discovers and says, you shouldn't, how do we know in this argument you shouldn't, and I know I shouldn't? Is there any rule like thou shalt not eat the ham, the family ham, in the midnight? And yet, in little conversations or conflict somehow, sometimes you know what is good, even without any definition. And so now, please, follow me. Comenius' answer is this. It is, of course, the good that is defining us, because goodness is essentially godness. For him, the good and God, the God, are of the same essence. It has enormous implications. 10 more minutes. Very quickly. Immanuel Kant introduced two interesting and helpful words in this moral discourse. Noumena. There are in this universe there are things which simply they are there, but we somehow know about them in a special way, but we cannot really define them. G. E. Moore put it like this: the concept of goodness is one of those concepts that admits no definition. On the contrary, it is used as the ultimate concept to define everything else. Does it make sense to you? Who defines who? Max Scheler said this almost funny sentence philosophically: the good is an independent entity that exists asubjectively. I will not bother you with simply it is there. If I wasn't here, nothing really happens. It is still there. But since I am here, this noumena, this reality that is independent of me, I somehow might touch it. It might be revealed to me in a situation like this fridge one or any other. One more sentence by Augustine. It was meant about time, but it fits perfectly here. I knew what it was until you asked me what it was. So that's noumena. And then there is phenomena, and you know this word because phenomenology, what's the proper pronunciation of phenomena? Phenomena, okay. And that is something which you may know, and you meet phenomena in your life every day. I will give you one little illustration. It is basically a discussion about reality as it is and as it appears. In some faces, I can see you haven't seen Matrix. For you, I have this illustration. You understand the difference. There is a difference between reality as it is and as it appears. We all know that pretty well. But now, when we apply it to such a difficult and transcendent subject as goodness, the good, the conclusion I'm using here, Plato, just because he's helpful in conversation with non-Christian, non-church people, but I could use C.S. Lewis, for example. Let me put it like this. Imagine this good, unknowable, difficult to define entity, the good. Imagine that as the sun, the source of all light, for example. The statement goes like this: you cannot look directly into it, but because of it, you can see everything else. That's the definition problem. So the conclusion is, no one has the definition of the good, because it is defining us. It's the same way with God. We don't have the definition of God because of exactly the same reason. He defines us. And since godness and goodness are of the same essence, the practical reality is like this. I cannot quite see it, I cannot define it, but I know what is a good deed when I meet, when I'm confronted with that. Do you understand this picture? You wouldn't understand this is Czech context. Again, people, we here in Czech Republic, would you believe it? We had a tornado several years ago. Tornado. Never happened before. And when it happened, suddenly thousands of people who wanted to help good people, suddenly it happened. And those without houses and roofs knew that these people are doing good for them without any philosophical definition. So, and this is one particularly good deed. Who is here from Eastern Europe? Okay, not many. So, just forget it. My dear friends and colleagues, the conclusion is, if Comenius is right here, and I somehow feel he is, that God and the good is of the same essence. And if he is also right, that morally resilient character who wouldn't steal, wouldn't lie, even if no one is looking, if that means knowing, wanting, and doing good, do you understand the implication? Every time you somehow manage to help your students, your children, to touch the good, once again, learn, know, you tell them. It's knowing the good. When you help them to want what is good, you somehow manage through some sophisticated didactic tool to motivate them, or maybe by example, or by a good habit, or whatever you are creative, so you know how to motivate for something good. When that happens, that you make them know, make them want, and make them do what is good, and they actually touch the goodness through your means, pedagogical means. Do you understand? You are helping them to touch God. And that is something special. It doesn't have to be through a lecture or perfect explanation or I don't know. It might be quite ordinary situation. I will give you, and that's my conclusion, that's the end, I will give you one little example. In my seminars with students, I do one special activity. I ask them, tell me in 3 minutes the most important or intensive experience in last 8,200 hours at school. Immediately, now, tell me. And what pops up or out of their minds are stories like this. This was a girl, 14 years of age. She came late to school, not because of her fault, but because the bus was so full that simply the door was closed, and she was 12 minutes late. And so she arrived late, she opened the door, and she wanted to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Teacher, I'm late because... And the teacher said, I don't want to hear any of your excuses. Sit down, do not bother me. And after 7 years, when she comes to my seminar, it is still in her heart and mind and comes first. It was not good. It was not righteous. I wanted to apologize. I wanted to explain, and she wouldn't let me. Such a little thing. But it's still in her. She knows what wasn't good and what is good. And on top of that, she says, next week, she came late to the class, 15 minutes late, 3 minutes more than me. And now, we don't need to go into deep moral philosophy here, but you know what happened in that situation, what was not right, wasn't good. If it was good, if the teacher, and now think with me, it is about knowing, good character, knowing, wanting, desiring, loving, and doing. We usually, when we hear a story like this, I ask this very question. Now tell me, if you were the teacher, what would be the right response, right interaction? And they usually know. They perfectly describe it, explain it, experience it again. And when they, as teachers, then go and do it, you know how amazing, how greatly intensive, strong, powerful, and good it is when the teacher passes on this very girl kind information. Oh, don't worry, nothing happens. I'm late myself sometimes. That's fine. Okay, that's the information. On the affectionate level, on the emotional level, that's fine. I care. I do not say, I don't care, sit down, but I care. What happened? Oh, the bus was full. I understand. And don't worry, we will manage it together. And you go and do something. When you do things like that, you may think, well, simply I do my job well. That's education. That's pedagogy. But if you, once again, that's my last sentence. If you manage knowing, wanting, and doing good, the child, through you, actually touches God. Because goodness is godness. Thank you.